G'day everybody, it's Danny from Board Game Sanctuary, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at my top 10 favourite word games of all time, as well as sharing a few live stories along the way. Stay tuned! Word games are probably my favourite genre of board games to get out when people come over or when we go on a weekend away or to play with family or friends. There's something so easily accessible about a word game, mainly because they don't seem very intimidating, at first that is. I just love how word games just really bring people together. I haven't always had this fond association with word-style board games, mainly because of my background and my family and how I grew up. My parents were Vietnamese war refugees who came to Australia, and they built a brand new life in Australia, and thank goodness, you know, they were okay, because otherwise I wouldn't be here today. Growing up as a kid, you know, at home, we would speak in our home dialect, which we call Teochew. It's very similar to other Asian languages like Hokkien. I feel like being the only family that I knew that spoke that language, apart from like my cousins and my aunts and things like that, I felt like a little bit like an island. So when I did play word games at school or when I was growing up, I found it really hard, mainly because of the language barrier and having multiple languages and knowing multiple languages. I found it actually quite hard to comprehend and grasp some of the nuances that occurred in language. One of the biggest memories I had when I was a kid was going to language school every Sunday. On Monday to Friday, I'd go to English school, basically where everyone spoke and taught in English. And then on Sundays, I would go to Mandarin school. But the teacher at the Mandarin school would often speak in Cantonese. And as I just said earlier, at home, we didn't speak Cantonese. We spoke Teochew, which is another dialect. Going into one environment where everything was trying to be pieced together and I was trying to make connections of how to develop English in my brain as a language, and then going every Sunday to this other school where, you know, the teacher spoke in a language that I didn't know or didn't understand at all, and then she was teaching a language that I didn't have any knowledge or context about, just made me feel really conflicted about languages in general. In fact, it probably deterred me from wanting to learn another language for a long time, because people would often use phrases and words and terms that I didn't know anything about. Sometimes that kind of made me feel like I was on the outer. It's taken me a long time to kind of break through those walls. And now that I, you know, play games, and I play games where there's a lot of rules and a lot of text, I've really come to appreciate the complexities of English as a language. And it wasn't until I went to university, studied a bit of English, and that's when a lot of the ideas and concepts that I really like in modern literature and themes in board games just finally connected together for me. And without further ado, it's time to dive in to the top 10. Trap Words is a game where two teams are going to be racing head-to-head through a dungeon to try and guess a series of words whilst avoiding key phrases or words that the other team has provided for them. If you've ever played a game called Taboo, then Trap Words is like an elevated 2.0 version of that game. In Trap Words, one player is going to be the clue giver, and the other team is going to be providing that player with a list of words that they're not allowed to say, and the person who's giving the clue to their own team actually doesn't know what the trap words will be. So they're going to have to sidestep around the topic, hoping not to step in a trap word, because if they do, they lose. So the word could be bread, and if the other team writes down keywords like yeast, loaf, or sliced, and the person who's giving the clue to their own team says sliced, then that's it. The really fun thing about trap words is actually coming up with the list of trap words for the other team, because you think, I know how that person thinks, and so if we write these keywords down, we're gonna hopefully have a good chance at winning, because they're probably gonna mention them. And just seeing someone try to struggle to just tell or give clues and sidestep around is actually quite hilarious, actually. Word Slam is a team-based word guessing game where both clue givers are going to be given the same word. There's going to be a barrier in the middle made from this very box, and each team is going to be trying to guess that keyword as quickly as possible. There's a little bit of a twist to this game. The clue givers are only given a deck of cards with key nouns, verbs, and adjectives and preposition words on them. And they'll have to place these words out on a little stand so that their team can try and guess them as quickly as possible. There is also another twist to this game. Because both teams are guessing aloud at the same time and trying to guess the same word, they'll be hearing each other's guesses, and based on what they hear from the other team might lead them down the right track to what the ultimate keyword is. Are you looking for a word game that you can literally play in your sleep? Well, the game When I Dream is a word game that has each player in the group taking on a different role and trying to sway the dreamer in different ways. So basically what happens in this game is one person wears this sleep mask, and then a keyword is shown face up in front of all the players. There are several role cards that are given out to each player. So you've got fairies, who wants the dreamer to guess the word, boogeyman, who wants the dreamer not to guess the word, and also the Sandman, who wants to kind of divide it evenly between the two. And so what's going to happen is when the dreamer is wearing the mask, each player is going to say a keyword that's going to help either lead the dreamer to the answer or lead them away from the answer. And at any time, the dreamer can interrupt and guess the word. And this keeps happening until time runs out. And whenever they guess a word, they move that word either to the correct side or the incorrect side. And based on how many cards are in each pile will determine how many points the boogeyman, the fairies, and the Sandman will get at the end of the round. And each person takes a turn at being the dreamer. Now, at the end of a round, the dreamer also has to recount all of the things that they've guessed, and if they can, they'll also earn some bonus points. This is a very individual style word game, but the fact that people are trying to lead you down the right path but also distracting you makes this for a very surreal and very interesting experience. JustOne is probably one of the simplest word games that are on this entire list, and it's one that anybody can play. It's a cooperative game, and I like to describe it as celebrity heads with key words. But basically, one player is going to be the guesser, and the other players are going to write a key word that relates to the word that they want the guesser to guess. The players then reveal their easels, and any clues that cross over or are replicated or duplicated are turned face down. And then when it's time for the guesser to guess, they're going to be given whatever clues are remaining, and they're going to have to deduce what the word is based on possibly one or two key words. So the interesting part of JustOne is, as a clue giver, you don't want to pick something that's too out there to confuse the guesser, but you don't want to pick something that's too common. That's all about trying to find the right medium without being too far-fetched. It's a really fun, fast-paced game that really helps to build some excellent team-building skills. The Insider is definitely one game I always love to take away on holidays. And if you're kind of that person who wants to play a social deduction game, but you don't want the social deduction or accusation element of social deduction to be the forefront of the game, the Insider is probably your next best bet. In the Insider, one person is going to be playing the master, who knows what the keyword is going to be. All the other players are going to have a role. If you're a commoner, you're asking questions, yes or no questions, that is to try and guess what the word is. If you're the insider, you're trying to ask questions that will hopefully lead the group away from the correct answer before time runs out. So the aim of this game is, it's kind of like 20 questions where you're trying to just guess a keyword by asking yes or no questions and filtering it all the way down. But the fun part of this is trying to work out who the insider is. Who was it that asked the question or planted the idea that led everyone down the wrong track? It is a masterful game that just captures that beautiful social deduction element without making that social deduction element so obtrusive like in a lot of other pure social deduction games. Medium is a beautiful word game about melding your minds together. It's all about trying to understand who you're with and trying to figure out whether they're thinking the same word that you are. Sounds interesting in principle, but it is absolutely brilliant when you play it. And I definitely recommend this game for a bigger group because there's more potential for so many different laughs. And it's all about trying to find the right wavelength and trying to go with the thing that seems most obvious to you, but it doesn't always seem most obvious to the other players. So in Medium, you're basically trying to earn these tokens. You're going to be placing a word down, and then another player is going to be placing a word in front of you, and from those two words, you're going to try and think of a word that's kind of in the middle of each one. So it might be island and plane. The first word I might think of is holiday, but that's not what the other person might think. And the whole idea of the game is to try and get closer and closer together to that medium. Because if you do fail on your first guess, you have to then find the medium between the two words you did say. And you get 3 chances, and if you do guess the medium in between those words, you'll then be able to get some points, and the points are kind of graded. It's a game that you actually get better at the more you play it, and the more you understand who you're playing with. So it's definitely one that I'll play with family and friends because you tend to know them a little bit better and you tend to get their nuances. But when you do match on the first go, oh, it's just so brilliant. The Codename series has probably been one of the most defining games that have opened up the world of word games and board games to a worldwide audience. Codenames is ingenious. The idea that you work on 2 teams and you're looking at a grid of keywords and you're trying to link as many words together as possible for your team to guess, and hopefully they don't guess either the assassin or the other team's operatives, is absolutely brilliant. If you're looking for a fast-paced game, then I definitely would go for the Codenames Duet version, where you get to play with a significant other or play in 2 teams. It is cooperative, however, but the regular vanilla Codenames is absolutely amazing, and I've had so many great moments playing this, not only in this form but on the digital form as well, because it just really taps into the nuances of words and trying to convey that nuance to your teammates. The only tricky thing I find about Codenames is becoming the clue giver. There's a lot of pressure sometimes to try and come up with some good word combos, but ultimately a thrilling experience. Have you ever played the game Mastermind? And you might have heard of it before actually, where one player takes on the role of the master, where they have access to a 4 color-coded answer key, whilst the other player has to put colors in rows to try and guess the right combination of colors and the right sequence of colors. Well, Masterword is an adaptation of that game, but instead of colors, we use keywords. In Masterword, one player takes the role of the master who knows what the final answer is, and the other players have to guess what that word is by writing keywords or phrases or concepts onto cards. The master will then identify how many of those cards actually link or relate to that keyword, but they won't be telling the guessers which of those keywords are right. So the guessers are going to have to deduce and debate what they think actually relates to the keyword and what the keyword could be. It is all about creating funneling questions, and I really like the rich discussion and debates that this game actually has to offer. And don't be deceived by the outer coat, because this game is super deep. We played one round which went for about an hour and a half, where we just debated about different types of food. And the idea that you can just talk about a cool topic for so long just makes this such a rich contextual game, all about meaning and nuances. And my number 2 word game of all time is Letter Jam. When this came out, this probably rose to the top of my must-have game list. Not because of its presentation, but just the idea of the game itself. The idea that everyone had letters in front of them and you could only see everyone else's letters but not your own, and you had to use other people's letters to create words to hopefully then give other people clues to help them guess their letters, and then at the end of the game, rearranging all the letters that you guessed to make a word and hopefully ensure that you had the right combination of letters to make the right word to win. What a challenging experience. This game is like Hanabi, but with letters. And there is a little bit of a secret before I go on. If you look at the strawberry on the front, there's actually letters, and there's a hidden message written in the strawberry itself. That's a little hidden Easter egg. What I love about Letter Jam is the discussion. The fact that you can come up with really cool words that really help all the people at your table. And when it's your turn to give a clue, you don't ever really help yourself because you're basing your word on the other letters that you can see. So it is a very great cooperative thinky game. It is one that I like to probably put in the more advanced category, but the more you play this game, the more you see how cool this whole concept is. It is a beautiful game about spelling things out, but in a way where you think, okay, if I use that word, player number one might not actually know what that word is. They could toss between 2 or 3 different words. So for example, if the word I was giving was war, but the first player had the letter W, then what the first player would see was question mark, AR. And that might mean that the first player will be tossing between 2 or 3 different words that might end with AR. But the person who's in the second spot will probably definitely know what the word is because they've got letter 1 and 3. As you can see, the complexity of this game just make it so brilliant. And now for my number 1 word game of all time. And this is a word game where every time I have played it, there has been really, really great tension. And this game is beautiful and perfect for evoking that tension. Now imagine you're on 2 different sides or 2 different teams and you're trying to listen in or eavesdrop into the other team's conversation. This game takes that sense of eavesdropping and funnels it and distills it into a brilliant word game. Probably one of the best I've ever played. It is Decrypto. The idea that you're trying to guess your opposing team's 3-numbered code is just a brilliant idea because the code that you generate each term is connected to 4 words that you can see on a screen on your side of the field. And whilst you're trying to get your team to guess that code, the other team is trying to intercept and guess that code before you. And if they do it right 2 times in a row, then they win the game. But the brilliant thing about Decrypto is the idea that each of the numbers is related to 1 of 4 keywords on your side. And so you're trying to get your team to guess those words, but without revealing too much information to the other team that they can pick up on your scent. So often in this game, and if you've played it a couple of times, you'll often throw in a few nuance clues in there that just kind of confuses the other team, but then leads your team on the right track. There is so much opportunity for metagaming, deep discussion, debating, interpretation of meaning, and it's so brilliant when you finally nail down that 3-digit code that the other team are communicating with each other. There are so many brilliant layers to this game that I've never seen in any other word game. Thank you once again for joining me for another Talking Sanctuary Journey video. I hope you found the information in this video insightful, and I hopefully have suggested some really cool games that you could consider or look at to adding to your own board game collection. Now, if you really like this video and you want to see more amazing content, then definitely check out some of my other videos on this channel. I can't wait to bring you more cool content in the near future. If you want to support this channel, please head over to my Patreon page or Facebook page to get some latest news updates. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.